I'd like to welcome everybody and thanks for coming to today's webinar looking at AI tools in publishing workflows. Our presenter today and a content expert is Adam Hyde, who's founder and principal architect of the Coko Foundation. Adam, as you probably read in signing up for this, brings publishing and technical leadership as well as pioneering insights into publishing workflows and technologies, which is an important area for us as an organization at BISG. He serves as technical director for OA Switchboard, holds a seat on the Electronic Information for Libraries Management Board, and is a co-founder of the Coalition for Open Access Publishing Infrastructure in Africa. You're probably good friends with our friend Andrew Joseph on that project. Welcome, Adam. Thank you for making the time today and for sharing your insights. Adam's going to present for a bit, maybe about 10 to 15 minutes or so. And then we'll turn things over to Ken. And any questions you might have, please put them in the chat and we'll definitely follow up. Adam, the floor is yours.
Great, thank you. Thanks for the introduction. Honored to be invited to this. Yes, and just a little bit more background. I also am the founder of Booksprints. If you've ever seen Booksprints, booksprints.net. It's a facilitated methodology for generating books in 5 days or less from zero to book. And I've been involved in many years in the exploration of how to innovate primarily around book publishing, but I was dragged into the journal world too. But first love is books. We also, I'm the founder of Page.js, which is an automated typesetting engine. It's used by a lot of folks. So I want to talk about AI and publishing and really specifically around one tool I'm developing at the moment. It's the first tool I'm developing, which is a proprietary tool. All of my other work has been open source. It's called Pure Science. It's beachhead market is first of all academic publishing, but it's a general purpose tool for publishing. It could be used in any kinds of publishing. The publishing landscape, as you will be all aware more than I am, is changing rapidly in terms of the technology offerings. And I think there's a lot of questions around AI. How useful is it? What can it be used for? And there's a lot of people scrambling to try things out. There's also a lot of new offerings coming into the market. And typically what we're seeing is very thin niche verticals. And some of them could be seen as more as just a wrapper around general AIs. But you also see a lot of wariness around this about the ethics. Of course, the book industry has been, the IP is a big question that has been used from publishers' materials for training these models in the first place. There's wariness around there, obviously. And then there's a big question about what does it mean to generate text? And depending on what kind of publisher you are, you're more wary of generative AI than others. So what I want to do is actually zoom out from that and actually just say that AI, as I see it, is a general purpose tool. And its use case can spread in publishing from everything from generative text, and that's, I think, seen as the majority issue, or use case, right through workflow automation and everything in between. And I believe it can touch everything in the publishing spectrum workflow, right from early inception through to different kinds of distribution. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. And the context I have is this tool here that I'm going to show you. It's a workflow automation tool or a workflow orchestration tool. And it allows you to generate publishing workflows, intelligent publishing workflows. When I say intelligent, I think of it more as a way to differentiate very linear workflows from ones where you're working with AI in a way which is leveraging the intelligence or orchestration capabilities of artificial intelligence. So I'll just show you very quickly how this tool works. I'll just put in here, you can create workflows. What you're looking at is a dashboard. I can create new workflows, and I can just very simply drag and drop items onto a canvas. If I zoom in on here, and I can type something in here like hello, right? So when I press go, the flow of data goes from left to right, and I'm going from a prompt node to a display node, and I'm just transporting that data. Now, if I want to add AI into the loop, I can do it like this, right? I can connect these two things. I can open up my system prompt and I can just say translate to French, right? So now when I press it, data flows from the left to the right and goes through the OpenAI LLM and through to the display node on the right. So this is how you can construct workflows using Pure Science. It's a very simple drag and drop process. We've made deliberately all of the connectors very simple, only one connector in and out where possible, and without heavy automation, heavy configuration. So you can just plug things in and it will work, right? And as you get deeper into it, there's more layers that you can access that give you more sophisticated control and possibilities. But this is the basic premise. And on top of that, we have a lot of nodes. So we have editor nodes. The editor nodes can be made full screen and they can be made to, look like a typical editor. This is just a very simple editor. We're actually in the process of putting a full word processor into a node. You also have triggers. For example, in production, we have file converters where you can upload files to trigger workflows, webhooks, which will allow you to bring data in from existing systems or external systems. We have all of these AI nodes, including storage nodes like RAG. We have data cleaners, image generators, etc. We even have, and I'll get to this in a little bit more detail, agents. So you can actually drag an agent onto the canvas and then you can connect it to other tools just by doing this, and then you've now created your first agent. Now the point here, it looks very simple. The backend is doing a lot of work here, but you don't have to spend a lot of time in development to build agents. With Pure Science, you can just literally drag and drop them in a no-code environment onto the canvas and they will work. Where this gets really interesting is that you can connect agents to existing systems, internal systems or external data sources, and then it can interact with those systems in a very conversational way. So it can draw data in and out in a conversation. So you can kind of, in a way, just talk to those systems, right? You could connect it to um, a book repository if you have all the data sources available and just say, give me a list of books, right? And give you a list of books. You don't have to understand complex API calls yourself. You don't have to navigate complex interfaces to find that information. So we also have various utilities for outgoing data, HTTP requests, text cleaners, very early work on an accessibility check node, which I'll talk a bit about later. File processors, so we do file conversion. You can pipe data in and get data out in the format of your choice. We also have an AI file converter, which will take PDF, download various mini models per content type, tables, whatever, interpret those, and then convert it all to HTML, which can be further interpreted. It does a very good job. We also have, because it's leaning heavily at this moment in the academic publishing direction, a lot of academic scholarly communications nodes like OpenAlex, if you know it, or PLOS, eLife, and this is accessing directly their APIs. We also have tools that do a little bit more like citation parsers, which will take plain text citations, break it into data, and then reformulate it in the structured citation style of your choice. Kitty is a book production system. We can connect it to Pure Science, so I'll show you a little bit about that. And then we have flow control stuff, loops. Now, the point here is that you get all of these nodes and you can assemble them in the workflow of your choice. Now, the reason why it's designed this way is that at the beginning of the year, I thought, okay, I've got to do something really serious in AI. It looks like it's going to be the new way of computing. Sooner or later, it's going to touch anything. That's my position. I don't know how long it will take, but I think it will. So I know I've been working in the publishing industry for a while, and what I see is from a bird's eye view, you can kind of describe every publisher's workflow in very simple terms. And from that angle, they look very similar. But as you go down each layer, you start to see they differentiate either in the language they use, the types of processes that they have, the culture, etc. And I've built big box platforms, book production systems, and journal systems. In journal systems, particularly, I know that that diversity in workflow means that you build very expensive, complicated products that can be configured a million different ways, right? So pure science takes into account that every publisher has its own workflow, and so you've got to meet them where the workflow is. Right. So you can assemble these workflows to meet your own culture and your own ways of working, and also to integrate with your own internal systems. So just to show you some very simple things, here is, for example, a bunch of plain text citations on the left, nothing structured. I can press go. It goes through the citation parser, and then it gets output here. And you see two things. First of all, you see a human readable interface where you can see the formatted citation and the style of your choice. And then the underlying data is here. So you get a human readable view and you get a machine readable view. I'll just run through these. I know it's very quick. Now, one thing that's very interesting is I've developed a book production system, which is open source, called Kitty. And I'll actually show you very quickly a demo video because I only have a few minutes. This demo video will show how Kitty can be orchestrated. So this is a book production system. It's 100% open source. It has export to book formatted PDF. It has a direct integration with Lulu. There's a lot of functionality here. It has concurrent editing, everything that you want. It even has AI knowledge base and assistance if you want them for helping with writing. But pure science can orchestrate that system. We've just done this in a very simple way, and I'll just show you this video here. Now, what you see here is a video of Kitty on the right. On the left is a prompt. I've just said, add some chapters to this book here. Write the chapters about the life cycle of a caterpillar in 3 chapters. Illustrate it, and then add it to the book, right? So this is not to show you about content generation. This is to show you that one of the most interesting, I think one of the most overlooked parts of the conversation is using AI and agents in particular for orchestrating systems. So you can give it a task and it will work out, generate the text and everything, but then it will work out with Kitty how to create the chapters, how to populate the chapters, etc. Right? So you don't have to do anything there. It can even go further. We've done initial experiments and we're going to take it a lot further, where you can do accessibility checks, and rather than on existing content in a system like Kitty, and rather than overwriting a page with corrected text, it can have track changes and comments to comment the text. So you can do it in a non-destructive way, and then your whatever system you're housing your content in can act as a QA device, and you can go through and check it in your regular system, right? So you can have this very collaborative model working between your existing systems and your staff in pure science to expedite a lot of the processes. So if I just jump forward here on this video to about here, all these nodes light up. They pipe in data. This is all managed by the agent. Agent understands this node needs this data, this node needs that data. What you can see here is it's now generated these chapters. When I click in the video, when I click on these chapters, then the title renders in the table of contents, and then you'll see each chapter materialize. And what's interesting here is it also has the caption, and it has the alt text as well, right? Plus well-formed HTML, etc. So it doesn't have to be HTML, it can be any format that you utilize. So just running on that a little bit, that's one of the most interesting things currently for book production that we're really interested in is about the captioning side of it. I put together this very simple demo for you. I'm a New Zealander. I used to do a bit of surfing, so I've used that as an example. I've made an agent here. This is one of the most important things about agents is system prompts. And this is one of the parts of pure science, is to help publishers understand from the people doing the work on up how AI works. Because I think we've been trapped in rather simple paradigms of a prompt interface, Claude or OpenAI, or some vertical solution that someone's delivered somewhere that does kind of one thing and may not necessarily meet all your needs. And so Pure Science is here to help publishers understand how they can take control of intelligent workflows and orchestration and learn the tools and get better and better at them and get them to do a better job for them. So one of the most important things is the system prompt. So when I press play here, the AI that's following this routine receives a topic, uses Claude to generate a story, uses DALL-E to generate an image, and then the important thing is here uses the image caption tool to create a caption using the context of the story and the image. And then it builds the story and outputs it to HTML. So it will go through all of these processes and create the story formatted and marked up for us and ready to QA. I'll just let it do its thing. And I'll just show you another example very briefly. Oops, sorry. How are we doing for time? A few more minutes?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So here's another one where maybe I'll show you. I had a better. You can also do output to various file types, right, through the converter. So in this, this one I didn't put a system. Oh, I put a very simple system prompt in, and then a prompt. So what I've done here is I've connected the agent to a ghost node. And the ghost node, my blog here, robotscooking.com, where I write about publishing in AI. This here is written in the blog technology called Ghost. So we've created a Ghost node, and we can orchestrate that. So here I've said, get the latest post. So I didn't say an ID or anything like that. I said, just get the latest post, okay? Get the latest post, um, create an appropriate image in the style of a Leica camera, street photo, display the content in the title of the entire article, and the image is HTML in this format, title, image, content, blah, blah, blah. Now, what I've also connected to that, when it does it, it feeds it to Claude, and Claude here has translate to French and keep the HTML structure and tags. And then this goes into a file converter, and then which is set up to convert to, if I go here, it's set up to convert to PDF, right? So so you can have all of these stages, automated. You can also put QA mechanisms in the middle of it. So we've built the simple editor and other tools that will display the content for you. You can then edit it, and then it has a accept. And when you press accept, then it triggers the rest of the workflow. So this is very much meant to be used as a tool where publishers they retain control of the process, and they can QA it wherever they like in that process. It's also designed to be a system that can be implemented at the product level. So you could also just have it as a go-between between various systems without users being involved at all, or to automate very specific tasks. So you can top tail it. It's either a system-wide, systems level integration, or you can use it on the floor as a staff worker, right? So here's this very brief article. Claude translated it to French, and then now the file generator is actually generating a file. Let's see what it says. Yeah, there we go. Oops. So it's created that PDF. It's translated to the French, and it's displaying it as the PDF that it just created. And that took me no time at all, right? And it's just a very simple example. Here with this one, sometimes this happens as well. It's also something to understand with these systems, is that you need to be able to get good at the system prompts so that you actually do error catching as well. In this case, what happened, it failed at one point, but we have nice, clear error messages to help you. It's a very transparent system, so you can work backwards and figure out where the problem was and then fix it. Okay, so that's kind of pure science in a nutshell. I mean, there's a lot of other things that I could show. The whole point is it's here for book publishing. We want it to work for publishers. We're very sensitive to um, the cultural position with AI. We think that there can be good faith tools that help publishers leverage AI to help them increase their capacity. Um, and what we're after at the moment, just my coda sales point, I'll be at Frankfurt, by the way. This is a early stage startup. We're looking for investment support. We're also looking for partners to help us go through proof of concepts and drill really deep down onto specific issues. We've had a lot of discussions about accessibility, for example, and how we might extend and develop pure science to meet those use cases. Maybe I'll leave it there.
Ken, you probably have 10 million questions.
I do. Yeah, I do. Um, so, thinking up, my mind immediately goes to supply chain workflows. Um, and I'm thinking about, you've got the PDF. Conceivably, if you knew the printer it was going to, you could apply the print profile and then dispatch it to move the PDF to an FTP and do the whole PO processing and all of that, kind of managing the ERP all the way along.
Yes, the answer is yes. What's required is just to figure out what that workflow is, and then build out, like literally, like just sit down on and list it out on a piece of paper, right? Step one, step two, step three, step four. Then assemble the prototype using pure science. But there may be in many of these workflows, this is why we're very early and we're looking for partners, nodes that are missing that could really fill important gaps, right? So this is where pure science is super interesting because it's actually deployable within any publisher's infrastructure. So we can actually deploy it within in a publisher's own environment, and we can build out the custom nodes that would be only for them to do their internal integrations or integrations with external services. And then yes, indeed, it's just a matter of building out, testing, guardrailing those workflows, putting in the QA points where you want, prototyping it in a risk-free environment, and then putting it into production. So yes, yeah.
Oh, sorry.
No. So it absolutely suited for that kind of use case. Yeah.
In thinking about all of the traditionally EDI, the traditional transactions that are done by EDI, and if you're operating the ERP on behalf of employees or something, you really can do all of that by accessing the ERP system, transmitting the data, getting it back in, doing the updates, all of that sort of activity.
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't really a question, I guess. So it is like the operator of ERP transactions and existing systems, as well as kind of the front end in the creative and production process.
Yeah, that's it. It's both that system level integration, automation possibilities, and then the on the floor sort of day-to-day gotchas workflow manager. But I think the more I work with it, the more I see. I thought that AI was going to kind of come along and then just in one big sort of tide wipe out all the existing sort of systems at some point, right? But I think actually what pure science offers, and it's opened up many ideas around this for me, is an opportunity to bring legacy systems, internal and external, forward.
Yeah.
And when you start looking at it in that light, there's just a million different ways it can be used to increase capacity, but also it's I'm starting to see it more and more that there are systems and people can collaborate in a way that they couldn't before, right? You can actually collaborate with your systems in natural language, which means that you don't need these sort of like, if your current systems has data, they can make it available, but it doesn't render it in a way that's suitable for you or to meet a certain use case, or there's complicated screens to get there, then just talking to the system using pure science can be like, can provide huge utility.
Well, I'm thinking about from the sublime back to the ridiculous, as it were. I've got multiple legacy systems that my people spend time keying from one system to the other. Conceivably, this could actually read the information, pull it out, and then stick it into the new system.
Absolutely. I think this is, again, one of the big learnings for me was the agents was a game changer when we put it on the canvas, because the agents orchestrate and they actually understand the API and the data requirements of the various systems that you connect it to, right? You have to, like look at the API, the existing legacy API, and build a node that semantically understands it. It's literally understands. And so then the interactions with that become much more conversational. So yeah, it's yeah.
On the trade publishing side, let's say that I'm looking at a workflow where I'm receiving a manuscript. They come in all sorts of different forms. What I want to do is I want to format it into a standard galley design or something like that that everybody can read, distribute it. I can then have an actual designer work with the manuscript, or I can have it suggest a design, and then with Ketty render it, I guess, right?
Yeah, that's an interesting one, that use case that we want to get to. We've done some work on doing an AI PDF designer. So this has been super interesting, and I've learned a lot from that. So I'm waiting to get the bandwidth to be able to recreate it in pure science. The things that I learned from there was that, so I'm the founder of Page.js, which is the automated typesetting engine, which is used by the Louvre for the exhibition catalogs, if anyone wants to question quality of automated typesetting. And it produces amazing output. The question when we built our first AI PDF designers was, we thought you could just the AI would just sort of understand good design because it's been trained on all these materials. It should be able to make some good decisions. It's understand CSS, which is the design language of Page.js. But actually, what we realized was that it needs design guardrails as well, right? So it needs to be fed with information about what you consider to be good design. And so the way forward for that, as I see it, is to generate with designers a whole lot of examples that make up a library of good design approaches for a certain class of content. Once you have that, then you can play a little bit with it, right? So the generation of a design, a full book design, becomes an assemblage of existing parts which have been recognized to be semantically harmonious, I guess you could say. And then the template can be assembled from that library. So that's definitely very possible with pure science. I think we're not doing away with designers, but I think it can help, especially if you have like a lot of throughput and you need to just tweak some things, or you need to treat lists or something slightly differently, whatever. Then in that role, it can have play a large part. It can also be used to automate the checks for things like, the orphans and all these sorts of problems.
And if somebody does not want to move to fully automated page makeup, they could presumably create the Adobe import
Yeah.
and just let it run in InDesign.
Yeah, they could. But the interesting thing is, like, once again, getting down into this conversational component. This is the thing that AI really offers in a lot of places, which is this. If you think about how you work with a designer, you sit with a designer and you say, I find myself saying stupid things like, make it look more modern, right? And I'm not sophisticated in this, although I've worked with a lot of designers. I like to give the designers a bit of room to move, right? So actually, that method is available with AI as well. You can talk in very vague terms and sort of draw it, in a broad arc to try and get to where you want to, and it will actually interpret it and try and um, um, meet your expectations. Just how well it does, I think, has got to do a lot with the starting, garbage in, garbage out kind of scenario. If you start off with like a really broad range of open-ended designs, you're going to get a mishmash. But if you can refine it, you can get something really good out of it. But yeah, if you don't want to use it, then you can just pipe it through your traditional processes.
Fabulous. Um, when you, as you envision rolling this out to publishers, will you have default system prompts to make it?
Yeah, our intention is to start folks off with some basic demos that they can just start with. We have actually designed a prompt writer to help you write system prompts, and very simple just to get you started. Um, but then one of the next things we want to add to is the ability to save your prompts in a library, because this is one of the things I think from the Claude OpenAI prompting, we all have learned various tricks and we just end up typing them out over and over again or copy and paste if we're very sophisticated. But actually, once you have production level system prompts and you have a library of them, then you can not only save them, improve on them, try different things out very easily, but you can share them as well, which is also very interesting.
That's very useful. Speaking of sharing, the content, as I run our proprietary content through the process, who has access to it, and is it used for training, anything like that?
Well, the large LLMs swear that they would never use your content. But and they never have. But there are now very good open source models available. So you can do it all. If you're in an enterprise and you really want to throw a rope around it, then Pure Science is not tied into any one LLM provider. So you can tie it to any of your internal systems, LLMs, if you have the resources to be in that position. And I think for those that don't, I think there's a good argument for having a consortium at some point. These are very important pieces of infrastructure, and I think they become more and more important. Consortium ownership of open source LLMs in a hosted, trusted environment for publishers that can't afford to do this themselves because GPUs are very expensive. I think if it's not happening already, would be a really interesting evolution.
So if Amplify Education, for example, wanted to do this, and we've got relationships both with OpenAI and with Anthropic, we could use our um, accounts essentially that have the contractual guidelines of no, you're not going
Yeah,
to learn off of the stuff.
you can either have your own API keys and your agreements under your enterprise agreement with whatever provider that you have, or um, you can set it up in your own internal systems with your own models.
Very good. Now, how close to commercial use are you?
Pretty close. We've got a few agreements on the table to just work through. There are two, there's one journal and book publisher, there's one journal publisher, and there's one book publisher. Pretty well recognized names. So we'll get we've got those that we need to work through, but we are interested in others at the moment. So we're an early stage startup, so we're looking for people who want to work with us to really take the product through a proof of concept to really refine it for their needs. And then what we learn from that will, of course, increase the value for the rest of the sector. But
So
pretty
what are
close.
what are
Yep.
some of the big use cases that you see, kind of like top to bottom, or in terms of what people are interested in?
I think we've had quite a few conversations. And when I say quite a few, I just need to caveat that we haven't gone public. This is actually the
Yeah.
first public forum, right? So accessibility of remediation of book content is pressing. And we've had a couple of conversations about that. In the journal space, it ranges quite a lot from production, helping with production, through automated checks of incoming content for triage and desk rejects. And so the thing about this is that, and this is another part of the problem at the moment. I think it was Spring and Nature said that they had 52 AI systems in play that they were using from different vendors, right?
No.
And so there's these this is the problem with this sort of the AI philosophy at the moment is a thin vertical philosophy. Let's pull apart the SaaS market, look at very thin vertical offerings and put AI into play there, which is interesting, but it ends up that you have a lot of things in play that you need to fill your workflow. Whereas pure science allows you to cover that entire workflow off. So there are existing integrity check systems out there, but we're in talk with a couple of journals who are interested in using it for that, right? Rather than their own, rather than another thin vertical offering. So yeah, so other use cases, quite interesting. We're talking to one research group who are using it to automate DOI registration for their posts, and then update, both pull it down from the existing where they publish, register the DOIs, do the file format conversion, the metadata extraction, and then make a deposit in a common repository. And then they're looking at actually using it for doing research-wide searches for mentions of their organization and their projects. So essentially, they're a research group that publishes, but they're outside the traditional publishing networks. And so they're not part of this whole impact factor game, but they do need to show their funders that they have impact, right? So they're looking for ways in which they can make a tally of all the mentions and references to their existing content. So they started off with this one use case, and now they saw the usefulness of the system, and then they moved on to this next use case. And that's the point too, whereas I think pure science offers the opportunity to land in an organization, even with one person, really build some depth to what they can do, and then expand through the organization.
So Rachel has dropped a note in about addressing publisher backlist for EAA Title II information and generating structured metadata.
Yes. So have you experimented at all with the structured metadata output? Yeah. Yes, we have. It's actually pretty good, but what we've learned is that when you do AI automation, you need to make sure that the results are as predictable as possible. So you have to ask yourself, where do you put the QA checks in? That's one thing. And then how do you flag exceptions? Because also automation can help with that. But also, how do you best ensure in structured data that it actually maps to your validated output? And so here is where you use existing tools, right? So you use existing validation tools, but you orchestrate them by the agent. so that agent can construct outputs, and then it can validate the schema, for example, against whatever schema it is you're using. That's one strategy. The other strategy is, like I was talking about, the accessibility, is that you want to make sure that the the information in there has also not been changed, right? So that you know, if you have a title or something, it hasn't maintained the structure but changed the title. So you also need tools to do that. So that's what we're in the process of doing. Our advice when going into this automation is to figure out how much of it you can make as deterministic as possible, if you're not talking about pure content generation, right? And then how can you use the agent to orchestrate that? Because that, in my opinion, is where the real value comes from. It's like getting away from a lot of these manual tasks that we all know exist in publishing, and providing orchestration of those tasks with QA checkpoints, etc.
That's actually been the challenge in my internal discussions with how do you automate like supply chain workflow processes.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't want my workflows to be non-deterministic. You know, I want them to, if I put in this kind of information, get out this result and no fooling around with it. So that's your
Mhm.
point.
That's it exactly. That's why, like I mentioned, that we're putting a fully fledged word processor into a node. And our intention with that is that if you were to perform an accessibility check, the LLM, there must be semantic checks and mechanical checks, right? And the semantic checks an LLM is suited to do, right? Mechanical checks, you know, have you got the right cascading headings, whatever, or the right labels and tags? That can be mechanically checked. But the whole process as a whole needs to maintain the integrity of the original source, so that you know that it hasn't just randomly changed content. So that's where, with this word processor node, what it shows instead is the LLM cannot change the original content. It can just overlay on top of it, right?
Oh,
So
I see.
so then you can make sure that you're getting a track changes report out, or you're getting a comment saying, you know, on the side. Now you can use it to completely rewrite the content, but also you can know that that content has not been changed in the way that you configure the node. Yeah.
You know, I'm thinking of like copy editing applications where
Mhm.
you're doing consistency checks across long form fiction,
Yeah.
that the protagonist still has blue eyes at the beginning and the end of the
Yeah.
book, either in generating or in implementing consistency checks. How do you do that?
Well, so we haven't done that, right? But
Okay.
so there's some tricks that can be leveraged, and one of them is to um, so with my blog, I've been experimenting with doing blog writing using pure science. And so one of the things that I've done in one experiment is I said, go through all my existing posts, make a bullet point about every statement that I make, and then preface it with does believe or doesn't believe, right? So I get a readout in bullet form of the positions that I have taken on various articles that I've written. And I've tweaked it a little bit to add more context, so you can read each bullet point without knowing what the previous bullet point was. Then storing those in a vector database, like a RAG database that we use in Pure Science. You can then, if you have content that you wish to write about, you can do a semantic search across that repository for those individual positions, call them up, and then ask the LLM to write a new piece and not contradict or to represent the positions that I've taken before. And so far, my experiments have been very positive with that. And so I think that's on the consistency level. You can easily interpret a text, pass out certain variables, I guess you could say, store them, and then whenever something comes up within a certain profile of things that you're looking for, check the semantic database to see what has been used before. So I think this, and RAG is also getting more and more sophisticated. You can get really fine-grained control on the kinds of stuff that you're searching, the kind of and storing, and the kind of matching that you're making. So I think for that particular use case, that's where I would go first.
Interesting. I'm thinking about the supply chain, the various lunch and learns and material that we've had over time. We could take all of those videos, turn them into text, and build essentially a GPT talk to BISG. I made a note here about an Adam Hyde GPT, or Rachel put in an Adam Hyde consistency checker.
Yeah, I don't want to see the results of that one.
New product idea.
Yeah, I want to retain the right to contradict myself freely.
That's, what is it? What was the quote about maintaining two contradictory ideas in your mind at the same time?
Right.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions that that folks have that they'd like to ask?
Don't have anything in the queue, but maybe someone will type it just now. One thing I wanted to ask Adam to maybe elaborate a little bit on is how do you get involved if you're on this call and you're not currently in conversation with you? How do folks get a hold of you? What's the process like?
So you can email me at Adam at pure.science. You can see the science. It hasn't been the site hasn't been launched yet. It's pure.science.
Okay.
It's leaning heavily on academic workflows. Don't let that deter you if you're outside of that domain. My primary focus is publishing, knowledge creation in a broader sense. So you can contact me and we can have a call and talk about it. And also you can find me through Ken as well. Yeah.
Great, thank you. And I think there was something came in just as Adam started to speak.
Rachel, again, talking about potential for maintaining consistency across publishing processes. When something comes up, a publisher can see how they've done it before.
Yeah, this is one thing I want to get to is like having a form of workflow marketplace that you would have workflows with documentation so that publishers can each see how the others have solved it. Some publishers would not want to participate in this. I think they like to keep it all secret source, but I think for general publishing could be very useful. Also like workshops also for sharing ideas at industry events would be very useful. I just want to come back to a point. I lost my train of thought at one point before. What I was trying to say was on the migration issue, well, on the data transferal issue between systems, I think one of the big problems in a lot of scholarly publishing previously, especially in the journal world, is how do you get out of a legacy system that is really not very effective at meeting your current needs as they evolve. And this is where I think actually AI and orchestration can play really a large role, is easing the burden of migration between systems. I think that's going to be one of the big outcomes. It'll allow publishers that want to move forward and are finding the burden of my system migration to be a complete nightmare, which it is, that the automated interpretation of schemas and the mapping and translation, of course, you need to help it with that. But setting that up and then allowing it to do the migration for you, I think it's going to be very interesting.
That's a big major expense when we do it. I imagine also defining requirements and making sure that they're truly needed and all of the rest when you're doing a ERP implementation would be pretty useful.
Yeah.
Rachel, you've come up with a few good ideas over here. Anything else you'd like to add? Nope. Okay. I think this has been really excellent. Any final comments or questions for Adam?
Really appreciate you making the time and kind of walking us through this. And it opens up a world of thinking for us that in some cases people are already there, but that would be Ken. And then everybody else is maybe coming to it for the first time.
Only in my imagination. This, however, is turning into reality, which is really, really exciting. So I think this is the vision of how agents can play in publishing without treading on all of the copyright issues that everybody's so concerned about.
Agreed.
I appreciate the invitation, and we're looking for folks that want to get their hands dirty with this stuff. So if there's anyone interested in a proof of concept, then please reach out to me.
Well, I think Ken has volunteered BISG.
Yeah, I did just do that, didn't I?
Awesome. Thanks.
Yeah, very good. Would you do workshops with teams from different companies to
Yeah, absolutely.
brainstorm ideas?
Yeah, I'm itching to do them actually. Is that, yeah, very interested. Yeah.
Because I think that's one that would be interesting. Now, are you also doing the like you were working on vibe coding and things a while back? Is that kind of like?
It's just on a pause at the moment. I'm going to come back to it, but I see a connection between these two things. But I need to take pure science a lot further.
Yeah.
Vibe coding is evolving quite interestingly. But workshops, I think, are really interesting because a lot of the point about this is to empower publishers and publishers' staff to leverage these tools rather than feel like there's this wave that's just about to be dumped on them. And I think so. Workshops, I think, would be a wonderful thing to do. I'll also be at Frankfurt Book Fair if anybody's going to be there.
Well, and since I'm in K-12 publishing, we don't get out much, so I won't be there. But I'll reach out via email.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, thank you, everyone. It's good seeing you, Adam. Really, thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah, pleasure. Thanks for the invitation.
All right.
So, bye.
Bye.